us in the National Conference on recent archaeological investigation in South Asia. Sir, being jointly organized by Archaeological Exploration and Excavation Department, Heritage Society in collaboration with IQAC and Department of History, Maharaj Lakshmeshwar Singh Memorial College, LN Mithila University, Darbhanga. On behalf of the conference organizing committee and as a privilege of being the chair of the conference, I bid you a very warm welcome and extend our greetings to all our keynote speakers, session heads, moderators, delegates, promoters, presenters, and participants joining from all over the world. Sir, I take this opportunity to behalf of all welcome Shri K. Muhammed Sahab, who I take this, who despite having his busy schedules have joined us in the conference and will be delivering a keynote address to us in the short while. He is a renowned archaeologist and former regional director north of the Archaeological Survey of India. K. Muhammad Sahab has been honored with India's fourth highest civilian award, Padma Shri, in 2019 by President Ram Nath Kovind. We are indeed honored to have you here with us. We have another keynote speaker, Dr. Amita Satyal, who is joining us from the famous Nalanda International University, recently established in Rajgir. She is a renowned historian in South Asian studies and will be delivering her keynote address on the last day of the conference. We are very pleased to welcome you, sir. Sir, I extend my sincere greetings to our session heads and moderators. We have here with us Dr. Sanjeev Kumar Singh, a renowned archaeologist and museologist from National Museum, Dr. Shanti Sarup Singh Sinha, a great art historian from Banaras Hindu University, Dr. Birendranath Prasad, a well-known archaeologist from Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi, Dr. Umesh Chandra Dwivedi, former Directorate of Museum and Archaeology, Bihar, Dr. Ajay Kumar Misra, a renowned anthropologist and Director, Ranchi Regional Center, and Dr. Rajesh Purohit, renowned archaeologist and museologist and former Director, Indian Museum. Sir, we are grateful to them for accepting our sincere invitation and joining us. It is in fact a great success to our conference that we will be hearing you in our conference. I feel privileged to welcome all of you in our conference. I also take this opportunity to welcome our renowned Orishi dancer, Ambika Rai ji, who will be joining us directly from Kolkata on the last day of the conference. Sir, I further extend my bit of congratulating and welcoming our 26 presenters who will be presenting in the conference and our 300 registered participants who will attending this conference from different parts of India and abroad. I congratulate and appreciate all of them for submitting their abstracts in such a short time of the commencement of call for application. I also welcome our thousands of viewers who are live on YouTube and Facebook channels of Heritage Society, making our conference a truly successful one. Sir, the program of the conference is scheduled in next 3 days from 29 July, that is today, till 31 July 2020. During these 3 days, there will be several presentation and keynote addresses organized into 2 keynote sessions, 6 academic sessions and 1 cultural program and at the end of the conference. That when I go back into time where the conference was planned out and it was decided to organize it on a theme related to recent advancements in archaeology. I thought there could have been no other topic as relevant as it is. In recent years, great strides have been made in the field of art and archaeology, and numerous field surveys and excavations have been carried out in recent years that have greatly amplified the progress in the field of ancient Indian history, art, and archaeology. I therefore welcome all of you to this academic journey and hope that it will be very enjoyable and engaging for all of you. That at this end, I have to extend further thanks to the two institutions for organizing the conference. I especially congratulate Heritage Society team for extending their full support in handling technical details and facilitating all designs, artwork and support to participants and presenters. Finally, in this tough time of corona crisis, when the whole world is under lockdown, I wish you all a very good health and an enjoyable academic session during the next 3 days of our conference. Sir, I now invite and welcome once again our distinguished keynote speaker, Padma Shri K. Muhammed Sahab, to deliver his keynote address. Thank you all. Next.
Thank you very much, Professor Madhav Choudhary Sahab, the head of the Department of History. We also have the Heritage Society's Dr. Ashutosh Dwivedi Sahab. We have Dr. Sanjeev Singh from National Museum, a number of scholars from from Banaras Hindu University, from Calcutta University, from various universities. It's a great pleasure and privilege for me to speak on a podium like this one, because the whole Nalanda, the whole Bihar region and the whole eastern India that way, it is full of heritage. And the antiquity of the Indian heritage goes back to a time when history itself was very fresh and time stood still. We have monuments in various parts of the country. Right from Kanyakumari up to Kashmir, we have got monuments that are so still and yet eerily alive, that sometimes defy our belief and imagination. Very beautiful monuments. Just look at the Sarnath Buddha, the preaching Buddha of Sarnath, divine in conception and sublime in execution. Very beautiful pieces. So India has got a very rich heritage, and India is a country from different parts of the world, various races, various regions, various religions have come together. And this kind of communities, this kinds of regions, races, they have enriched our great culture. But somehow in 1192, there was an attack. Even before also, there was an attack from Muhammad Ghazni. In 1192, because of the attack of Muhammad Ghori, and also at a later period, then during the period of Bakhtiyar Khilji, that was the period of Iltutmish. Bakhtiyar Khilji, he went to Nalanda, Vikramshila, and many of our universities, and most of them were destroyed, along with the very rich libraries, Ratnaganja, Ratnodadi, Ratnasagara. And that way our civilization came to a grinding halt. It was all completely buried. Nobody knew for a long time what had happened to our rich history. And then from 1783 onwards, there were certain efforts from the European scholars to rediscover our Indian history and Indian archaeology also. Now, I find that there is a trend because their contribution, especially Sir William Jones, Alexander Cunningham, Prince, the contribution of all these scholars to rediscover our Indian history, very rich Indian history, was phenomenal, very phenomenal. I mean, but still, now there is an attempt sometimes to, to malign all those people. They were all evangelists. They were all doing it for the Christian religion and all those things. But as an archaeologist, when you go into the contribution these people have made, we have to salute those people. Perhaps if they were not there, we would not have been able to understand ourselves. It would have taken a lot of time to understand ourselves. So their contribution in the field of art, archaeology, and heritage was very great, very phenomenal. We should be thankful to them. So, how did we discover our own history? I'm going to speak to you today on that particular subject because we had a very bad habit of not writing down various things because we believed in our mental capacity. We wanted to by heart everything. So we wanted to by heart it, and we did not much believe in writing down our own Vedic history and other history. So it had its own drawback also. During a pandemic, when many of these people, old people, dies out, and the memory also gradually dies out. But if you had written down all those things, that would have survived, as it happened in many various other civilizations, like the Egyptian civilization. They had a very evolved writing system was there that was known as hieroglyphic. Sumerian civilization, they had the cuneiform writing. So they reduced all of them into writing. Because of that, survived. But somehow, because we did not believe in that one, so many of those things were lost. So what happened is, because of this defect also, and because of the attack of this one, Central Asian groups also, that is West Asian groups also, we lost many things. And we did not know that Buddha was an Indian. For a long time, the greatest historians of that time, they did not know that Buddha was an Indian. Then it took a very long time to realize, no, he was an Indian. Many of the historians, they thought that either he is an African, including our Sir William Jones, he was an African, or he was a Egyptian. Because many of the sculptures that have been excavated in different parts of the world that had got that curly hair was there. And there was a false propaganda, I mean, that was initiated sometimes very long back. During the period of Marco Polo, he wanted to discover the whole Christendom. So when he was marching, I mean, there was a very wrong perception. Because of that also, many people thought that he was not an Indian, but he was an Egyptian. Similarly about Ashoka also. Ashoka, some of the historians of those periods, they thought that he was a Sri Lankan. And then how did we discover? No, Buddha was an Indian. How did we discover Ashoka was an Indian? How did we decipher our script? That is the script of this one, Brahmi script. So this is the subject of my discussion today. I mean, it will take a lot of time, but I'm trying to concise the whole thing. So I think I will go to the PPT. Once we have the PPT, it would be it would be possible for us to understand it in a better way. Okay. Okay. Can you see? Yes.
Please.
Can you share? Is it
Uh,
Radhi?
we are not able to see your presentation, sir.
Acha, acha, you are not able to. Acha.
Now it is visible, sir.
Now it is visible. Okay.
Now it is okay, sir.
Okay. So this is the topic today. I mean, rediscovery of Buddhism means rediscovery of Indian civilization itself. So this we all know. This is the Firozshah Kotla. Firozshah Kotla was the fifth city of Delhi. And in this city of Delhi, there is an Ashokan pillar. You can see this Ashokan pillar. So this Ashokan, the importance of this Ashokan pillar is that it has got an inscription of Ashoka also. But at that time, nobody knew that it was an Ashokan pillar. Many of the European travelers also who had come to India, they thought, for example, in 1611, there was one William Finch, he had come to India. So he thought this might have been erected by Alexander the Great. And the language, that is the Brahmi script, which was used there, I mean, he just thought that this is a all type of Greek and Latin language. So that was the misconception. But this pillar was, it did not belong to this place. It belonged to Punjab. Then the king Firozshah, he transferred them to this place. But nobody knew what is the language. He himself, Firozshah himself, he passed away in 1388. He himself tried his level best. He brought so many scholars also at that time, Vedic scholars, to try to decipher it, but he could not. So this was one thing which was seen by many of the European scholars who had come to India. This has got an inscription, and an stamp image of this inscription was taken at that time. Now this is Allahabad pillar inscription. So that one is in Delhi, but it was originally not in Delhi, it was in Punjab. So I mean at the easternmost part of the country. Below Kashmir, I mean that was the easternmost part of the country. This is from Allahabad, and Allahabad pillar inscription. I mean that is in two languages. We have got two inscriptions. One is of Ashoka, and then Samudragupta inscription also. But that also looked alike only. There was some kind of similarity. So one you have it in Punjab, and the other one you have it in Delhi. And just look at this one. This is Loria Nandangad. Loria Nandangad is in Bihar, easternmost part of the Bihar. I mean, touching, you can say touching Nepal. So one is in Punjab, the second one is in this one in UP, and then the third one is in Bihar. Loria Raraj. Again, these are the old photograph. I am using the same photograph. So this is again in Bihar. And this is, of course, we know, this is from Orissa. This means the first one is from Punjab, and the second one is from UP, then Bihar. Now we have the fourth one from Bhubaneswar, and the same kind of inscription. And here is the man. He is Major Todd. He has discovered another, this one. This was in the eastern part, that is one. And the western part, and here we have the great man who rediscovered or who deciphered the whole thing, that is our Brahmi script. He is Prinsep. And this inscription, this is a facsimile of the same inscription of the Girnar. So one is in Western India, and the other one is that is in Eastern India, and then the other one is in Punjab. And now the question comes: who was this great man who was having such a very big empire? And what is this language? Nobody knew what is this language, and who was this great the king. Of course, in some of our Puranas, there were descriptions about Ashoka, but Ashoka was not shown in his proper light because he was a Buddhist. So many of the Brahmanical writers, they should not, I mean, gave him, they did not give him the kind of importance as a king which he had deserved. So he was underwritten at that time. So this became because who was this king? I mean, who has given such a proclamation? Then after a very long time, because by that time a number of discoveries were taking place in various parts of the country. For the first time in 1818, Sanchi Stupa was discovered. It was discovered by Henry Taylor in 1818. Then in 1818 itself, Kandagiri, the great Kandagiri in Orissa, that was discovered by Andrew Stirling. Then that was in 1818 in both these things. And then in 1824, Girnar was discovered by Major Todd. And along with it, Ajanta, Ellora, then various other places also. So the estampage of that inscription was taken, that is the Firozshah Kotla was taken. Then Major Kittu, he got the stampages of some of the Udaygiri, Kandagiri and various Girnar inscriptions also. So when the historians and when the archaeologists of that time, when they looked at it, they said that the author of all these inscriptions are the same man, but what is it written? Nobody knew. So this was the landscape of that period. And that was the period of discovery, we can call it. And now the eureka moment of Indian history, that is known as the deciphering of these things, that comes out. We all know the name of Princeps because his contribution was phenomenal. But at the same time, there was another person whom we know very less. His name was Christian Lassen. Christian Lassen. He had translated a number of things, a number of books, ancient books, from Sanskrit into Indian languages and also into English. So he got certain coins. And that certain coins were in with this Bactrian coins. So in the Bactrian coins, on the one side, there will be this one in Greek language. And on the other side, obverse and reverse, on the reverse side, there will be the name of the same king in Brahmi. So here you have a clue. On the one side, you have the name of that one in Greek. Greek is a known language and it is, letters also one can read it. And on the other side, the name of the same king was given in Brahmi. So with the help of this thing, he got the Brahmi, he could read Brahmi some 7-8 letters. The first, discovery was the name of a king known as Agadha Close. Agadha Close. So you have one A is there, G is there, A is there, T is there, H A is there, C is there, L is there. So they got certain alphabets. So he tried to get some more the names of the kings and he got some more names also. So that was the first, this eureka moment. And the second was by Princeps. What Princeps did is, we know that in 1818, Sanchi Stupa was discovered. There were many inscriptions also. But there were 21 inscriptions in which the first few letters were different in all of them. In all the 21 inscriptions, the first letters were first 4 or 5 letters were completely different. But the other one, I mean, in the end of it, all of them were, I mean, the same thing. So he just thought of it. Princip just thought of it. What is the meaning of it? He just applied his common sense. So he said the first letters are different because these are the names of the person who had donated these pillars for the Sanchi Stupa. And the last word is Danam, D-A-N-A-M, Danam. It was, this pillar was gifted by so and so person, or this stone was gifted by so and so person, this was donated so and so person. So then he joined them together, that Agadoclos and one more king's name was there. He joined them and this Danam also. And with the help of this one, he was able to read out what was written in all these Ashokan inscriptions. So this was speaking, this all the Ashokan Dhamma. Ashokan Dhamma was not speaking for any particular religion. It was not speaking for any particular king also. So it was speaking about certain moral principles, certain ethical principles, that you should obey your parents, you should obey your teachers, you should obey your elders. These were the moral and ethical principles. But who was the king who had issued all these things? That became a problem. And then for the first time, we came to know it is about Buddhism. And that clue we got it, even that this is about Buddhism and the Buddhist principle. That clue we got it for the first time from Bairat inscription. Bairat, of course, is in Jaipur. That inscription was there. And for the first time, we also came to know that this was issued by the king of Magadha. And who was that king of Magadha? He was Piyadashi. But who is this Piyadashi? People thought Piyadashi, there is none, I mean, there is no Indian king as known as Piyadashi. But there was one king, he was a Sri Lankan king. And he was a contemporary of Ashoka. So some of the historians of that period, they argue that this is a Sri Lankan king, it is not an Indian king. But now the question comes, whether a Sri Lankan king is that powerful that, I mean, he came to India and right from Punjab up to Eastern India, Western India, and even further below Maharashtra and even further below Karnataka. Is it he is such a powerful king? So many of them said, no, it might not be. And then in 1915, the great Maski inscription that was discovered. In that Maski inscription, the name of Ashoka, because that was very, 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 very categorically, the name of Ashoka was written there, and because of which we are now able to know, no, actually that it was this Piyadashi was none, but the king of Ashoka. And then the whole thing came into, came before the world, and people were able to connect it with Ashoka. And by that time, something more happened. So we know that this was Bairat inscription, Piyadashi, because that says Piyadashi, Laja, that means Raja, Magade Sangam Abhivadedan. This one, the Piyadashi, king of Magadha, he salute the Sangam. Sangam means Buddhist Sangam. And the Maski inscription says, Devanam Piya Ashokasya. So with the help of this Bairat inscription, and also later on by Maski inscription, and then there was one more inscription at Jhansi, which is known as Gujarrat inscription, in which also it is very clearly written that it is Ashoka Piyadashi. So with the help of that, I mean, we were able to pin down Ashoka, that Ashoka was the author of all these things. And by that time, George Turner, he was again an Englishman. He had translated Mahavamsha in Sri Lanka. And there was one more book which speaks more about Buddhism, that is Deepavamsha. In Deepavamsha was translated in 1934, and that very clearly again said that Ashoka Priyadashi, he converted the Sri Lankan king. He was converted, his name is Tissa Priyadashi. So Tissa was converted by Ashoka Priyadashi. And who is this Ashoka? Again it says this Ashoka was the grandson of Chandragupta Maurya, son of Bindusara, who was the prince of Ujjain. So it became now the when the whole picture became very clear, it was Ashoka, and apart from Ashoka, it was nobody else. And now let us go to some of the our own this one. How did the discovery? This is one kind of discovery. And what about the discovery of various places? That is a very important point. So this, of course, we have I mean, similar inscriptions are there in various parts of this is from Maski inscription. This very clearly speaks about it. And similar inscription, this is of course from Sarnath. And if you look at this one, this you can see this Shahbaz Gadi inscription, Mansara in this one, Khandar inscription, Kalsi, Delhi, Topra inscription, Meerut, and all over the country this was there. Who was such a powerful king? And now we have discovered, I mean, we have been able to find an answer also. Who was this great king? This is, of course, we had no way of getting it because, you know, in other places, for example, in places like this Persia, they had, I mean, most of their inscriptions were in three languages. In hieroglyphic, it was there, that was in Rosetta tablets, that was in Egypt. But this is known as Behistun inscription. In Behistun inscription, very fortunately, most of the names were identified on the basis of this inscription. It was an inscription of the king Darius. And the languages were, one was Elamite, one was Babylonian, and with the help of this one, Babylonian and Elamite scriptures, Rawlinson, a great historian, he was able to discover what was written there. And unfortunately, we don't have that kind of inscription. That is why we are not able to solve the problem of our own Harappa, Mohenjo-daro, and other places. Similarly, Rosetta tablet, there in Egypt, they were able to discover, that was able to discover in 1799. They got it, but by 1922 they were, I mean, by 1822 they were able to discover it because, you know, this was in hieroglyphic, Demotic language, and also the Greek language. So since there were three languages and Greek was very well known, they were able to solve that problem. But we did not that kind of things, except one, that is, I mean, we Agathocles. These are the various inscriptions in three languages. And now, how to discover the places? Because by that time, Fahian was not translated into English. Fahian was translated into French in 1832, in 1836. And then by 1841, some of the excerpts were coming into English also. So they just thought, what is this country where Fahian had traveled? Buddhism had completely died down in India. Completely died down. There were no Buddhists also at that time. So there was no scope for bringing them into India completely, because, you know, it was not a living religion in India. It was a living religion in Burma. It was a living religion in Sri Lanka. It was a living religion in Thailand. It was in various other European countries, and it was a religion, I mean, this one in Nepal, Bhutan, and other places, but not in India. And then how to connect it with India? So it is at that time, in 1835, the great man Alexander Cunningham, he himself excavated this Sarnath Stupa. We all know this is Sarnath Stupa. He excavated it and he got certain things also, but he could not associate it with Buddha. He failed in that one. Although he was a great archaeologist, he failed in that one. Earlier also, Alexander Cunningham, he had visited Harappa. And at that time, he was not able to associate this one, Harappa, also with a great civilization. It took, near about 75 years in order to discover, because it was only by 1927, although he had visited Harappa in 1853, it took for John Marshall in order to establish, no, this is the real Harappa of our Indian civilization. That we came to know only in 1927. So, in the second excavation of this place, that was in 1947, Markham Kittu excavated. So, he got certain Buddhist sculptures from this place, and the Basantwala inscription also, in which it is Basantwala inscription, it is that he was a Bengali king, the king from Bengal. It is said that he said that I have come along with my brothers to worship at this place, and you should all follow Buddhism. And then certain other inscriptions also that were also recovered, Yedam Mahedu Prabhava, Edum Tasham Tadagado, they were also discovered. So by that time in 1846, although in 1835 we missed the bus, in 1845 they started having some doubts. Aren't they connected, associated with Buddhism? But before that, this same Alexander Cunningham in 1841, he had gone to, certain portions of this one, that is, the Fahian, he had read, and he came to know this is about speaking about India and some of the Indian cities. So the name of Kannauj, which was the capital of capital of Harsha, that was Kannauj itself, it had not changed. And from Kannauj, this one, Fahian had given the measurement that if you are traveling in the northwest direction, 7 yojana means would be roughly around 8 to 9 miles. If you travel this one, then you will be reaching Sankisa, where Lord had come down from the heaven. Lord Buddha had come down from the heaven. So what he did is, in order to prove that this could be, this would be a great archaeological discovery, he started exploring the entire way right from Kannauj, and he traveled in the southwestern direction. When he traveled almost 92 kilometers of the modern period, that is 52 miles of that time, he reached a place known as Sankasya. Now we know it is Sangisa, but he, at a place known as Sangasa, where, as Fahian had described, there was a very big pillar also, Ashokan pillar also. So the first time he was able to prove whatever was given in Fahian, that is about India, and also it is also the direction, and if you are following the directions of these people, you will be reaching the right place. So after this major discovery, he wrote to an English East India Company at that time that you have to have an archaeological surveyor. And the Huyang Sang, it was translated in 1853. And that was also again into French in 1857 and 58. That was the period of our first war of independence. Then it came into India. So before that, so although he applied for the post, he did not. Alexander Cunningham did not get the post. It went to Markham Kittu, who was 6 years older than him. Then what Markham Kittu did is, he explored the entire Bihar area. He discovered various places known as Rajgir. He excavated. He went to Bodh Gaya, various other places associated with Buddhism. The names of all these places were the same thing, they had not changed. But 2 places had changed. And one of that place was our great Nalanda University. Although Huyang Sang had given a graphic description about it, how to know this was the great Nalanda University? Because its name had become Badgaon. So, and there were so many tilas where there certain conical mounts were there, because it was explored. Nalanda was explored in 1811 by Buchanan. So he asked the people, what is this thing? What are you? He found certain conical mounds, and certain square patches also. He was not able to connect it with Nalanda because at that time in 1811 many of the things were not translated also. So some people said this was the capital of Bimbisara. Some people told him. And then in 1836, another explorer came, Martin. He was also not able to connect. Then in 1846, Markham Kittu came. He identified it with Kundalpur. Kundalpur is associated with Mahavir Jain. He was also not able to associate it. Then it was by 1861, Alexander Cunningham, 1861 and 62, Alexander Cunningham, he got a number of inscription connecting it with the great Nalanda University. And also that great seal, at a later excavation, some of the seals also, Shri Arya Bhikshu Sanghasya, that the great inscription was also discovered, on the basis of which it was now proved, no, this is that great university of Nalanda. And another thing which they could not identify was the great Pataliputra. Where is this Pataliputra, which was the capital of our Indian, the Indian history? Because that was the second capital of India, and it continued to be the capital almost for a number of hundreds of years. Where was this one? And there were major, differences of opinion among about this one also. And then Pataliputra was always in the records of Megasthenes and other people. This was known as Paleobotra. So at that time, this was known as, the local name was Putalpet. Putalpet. The local name was Putalpet. People were not able to associate it. But then it was James Rennell who discovered, no, this Paleobotra is nothing, but it is Putalpet. And that Putalpet became later on our Pataliputra. And we know the excavation about at various places like Kumbrahar, Bulandi Bagh, and various other places. It's a great historical place, which was the capital of India almost for 400 and 500 years. Then after that, now we'll just again go to, so the first clue about this one, this Sarnath, because for a long time people thought that this has got certain Jain association, and this gave that Basantapala inscription also, and certain Buddhist texts also, Yedamma Hedu Prabhava, Hedum Tasham Tathagato, that for the first time gave us certain idea, this Sarnath is associated with Lord Buddha. That is why, and then the archaeologists, they started the excavation also. Similarly, this also, I saw this when I went to the site, I saw the site like this one, and then I excavated it, and it looks now like this one. And I laid out a beautiful garden also all around it. And similarly, the great Bodh Gaya, this one, the temple also. When the British came, it was in the hands of certain Vaishnavite groups. But there were certain Burmese groups also. They knew that this is associated with Lord Buddha. And many of them had their own houses also, their own, monasteries also, and the Sri Lankan people also. And but when the early Buchanan, when he looked inside, he could find so many Buddhist sculptures also. And when it was excavated, certain portions were excavated. Some more inscriptions were discovered, and that inscriptions also very clearly says this was the place where Lord Buddha had appeared. And again, it exhorts the people that you should follow the religion of Lord Buddha. So thus we have started discovering Buddhism. And this is, as you all know, this is the great Nalanda University, and it was completely discarded by the people. And a man who was a low caste man, he had built a house like this one in a corner. When his family increased, he made one more house here. So there is one house here and there is one house here. And then during the early period, that was in 1861, the first excavation was taken up. Then in 1872, Broadley had excavated. And then in 1915, again it was excavated. Then 1922 it was excavated. And as a result of excavation, now we have the greatest ever excavated university in the world. Because this university had 10,000 students and 1,500 teachers. And it was a grand university, one of the earliest universities. The great Oxford University was this one opened in the year in 12,000. 12,000. And similarly, Cambridge University in 13th century. And this 700 years before Alexander, this one, Oxford University, Cambridge University, and Paris University, Strasbourg University. This was a major university who taught not only in this one in religion, but in almost all the arts of the whole world. And people started, students started coming from China, Thailand, Burma, and almost all. It was an international university. And all other European universities, they were local universities. But this was a great university. And most of the people who had gone to there, they had seen it like this one. And then, as we know, this, when for discovering, for excavation, this house which was here, this had to be dismantled. So this corner tower was exposed. This corner tower was exposed. And now you have to go down further. Just see, the whole corner tower was exposed. So as per Panchayatana form of temples, if you have one tower here, you will be having another tower here, and the third one there, and the fourth one here. And all of them were exposed. So you can see one here, one here, and one there, and one there. All the four. Just look at it. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we had started from here. There was only one house. When he wanted to, when his family members increased, he made one more house. So we had to dismantle this house. So we got this, the top of the corner tower. It was further excavated. We got the whole thing. And now if you go to the place, you find them like this. And originally in 4th and 5th century, it was like this one. You have the corner towers, corner towers, corner towers, corner towers, and then there was a stupa like this one. But what happened is, during the Pala period means from 9th century onward, they filled up all this portion. The stupa was completely, the top portion was completely filled up. And then they made a temple over this one. A huge temple. So what we see is now it is an amalgamation of the temple and stupa both. So sometimes, it is very, if you are not a subject expert, it is very difficult to distinguish it. And when Buchanan came in 1816, he had seen the whole Nalanda like this one. Conical mound, conical mound, conical mound. He did not know what was below this one. But later on, many of the later archaeologists, they realized all these were the conical mound. They were the real temples on one side. So there were 6 temples on one side. And then just opposite to that, there were square patches. And what is the meaning of these square patches? Those square patches were actually the monasteries. The monasteries where the students were living, and these were the temples where they were worshipping. It was just opposite to that one. And all these monasteries they were mostly in 4 stories. Huangsang has given a very graphic description about it, in which he says that there were many, this one, the stories, it was mostly 4 stories. See, the early excavators, they had seen the whole place like this one. It was a completely barren land. Just opposite to that, you can see that conical mound. He specifically says conical mound and square patches. These are the square patches. Nobody knew what was beneath this one. And then the later on the excavation carried out by those archaeologists of ASI and various other institutions, they started exploring and exposing so many things. See, the excavation of this started, and similarly the excavation of this one also started. And you can just see how the excavation, 1000 laborers were employed at that time and got various sculptures also. You can just see almost 1000 people were used and they are excavating at the place. And now things are becoming a little bit clearer. You can see the square patches. The square patches has now being cleared things. And what would be there? I mean, these are the rooms for the students. These are the rooms for the student in which, I mean, 2, 3, 4 students were living in each rooms like this one. And here there is a well also. A well for this one. And here there was a stage. A stage means it was a platform where the teacher would be sitting here and the students will be sitting all around. This was the kind of education which they were getting at that time. Now we have conserved it. The platform where the teacher would be sitting and the rooms or the cells in which the students and the teachers were also staying. And that well is also, each one of them had a well also. And now this has been again conserved, further conserved. These were the temples. The temples were also excavated like this one. And these are the Manoti stupas. As we all know, there are 3 types of stupas. One is the relic stupa, where, I mean, if some portions of the body portion of Lord Buddha or some other very important disciple is kept, that is known as relic stupa, there will be some body parts would be there. And the second is an Uddeshika stupa. Uddeshika stupa means if something associated with Buddha had happened there at a particular place. For example, we all know about Vaishali. In Vaishali, certain miracles had happened. In Rajgir, certain miracles had happened. So there, I mean, there will be a stupa. It is known as a Uddeshika stupa. A particular event of Lord Buddha is indented there. And the third one is votive stupas, Manoti stupas. Suppose you have got certain desire in your mind. You say that if this happens, is my wish fulfilled, then I will be making a small Manoti stupa here. So this was the Manoti stupa. And when I went to Nalanda, because all of them were as in charge of the monument, it was again in a very bad condition. Then we started a kind of excavation and exploration. We also used a number of students from various institutions because sometimes the government funding is not enough. So you can just employ the students from various universities, from various colleges. They would be of immense help to you. The only thing is that you have to give them certain refreshments and other thing. And by this thing, you are not only trying to help them to help you, but also instilling a kind of respect for their own heritage, for our Buddhist heritage, for our Hindu heritage, for our Islamic heritage, for our Christian heritage. You are making them part and parcel of our own heritage. You are making them shareholders in our rich heritage. And now this has been completely conserved. And similarly, there were 11 monasteries were there, and these were the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This one, temples were also there on the other side. And this is the plan of a monastery. You can see all the cells are there. And this was the quadrangle. And here there are certain hearths also, kitchen, a kind of kitchen. Here there is a well also, and here there is a platform where the teacher used to sit. Here most probably the whole library, Ratnaganja, Ratnodadi, Ratnasagara, where the great manuscripts were, all of them were burnt by Bhakti Khilji. that might have been either this one or an adjacent one. Because there are certain burn marks are there on the basis of which we have been able to identify this might have been a kind of library also. And just see now, you had seen as a barren land. And how do you say that they were 4-story? Like this, Huan San said all of them were 4-story. Just to give you, proof, here you can, these are steps for going now. Which means it was not only single story, these were multi-story structures. And just see the way. This is the greatest ever excavated university in the whole world. Just compare this one, how you had seen, and what kind of work Archaeological Survey of India has carried out. Of course, it took a number of years, but still, it is a magnificent work which Archaeological Survey of India has carried out. Just compare both these photographs, and look at this photograph also. And my original program was, I made it while I was there in 2000. I was there in 1977 and onwards up to 2001. I made a proposal that all the area which is not yet with Archaeological Survey of India all around, that should be near about 100 acres of land that should be acquired by Archaeological Survey of India, because what you have it is now it's only half of this one, Nalanda University, and the rest of the half is in the nearby villages. You have to rehabilitate those people very honorably. You have to rehabilitate those people. And also, once you rehabilitate, you can acquire all those places, you can excavate it, and then present to the whole world. Now the whole world is coming to see Buddhism, and they wanted to see. Just look at certain mistake we had committed. See, this is our boundary wall, the present boundary wall. If you had the present the boundary wall like this one, that would have been a major contribution. So similarly, many wrong things have taken place at that time. We should have, even at that time, we should have acquired the land, the entire land, but that was not done. But at least even now we can do, if you have the real passion for art, archaeology and heritage. Now Indian tourism, 12% of our GDP is from tourism. And what is tourism depends upon? Then their tourism, mostly 90% of tourism depends upon our heritage. And this heritage we are not able to market. We should market our heritage. We speak a lot of things, about marketing heritage and other things. But nobody, whichever government, whether it is BJP government or it is a Congress government, nobody has got that kind of vision that we should market our heritage. We have to have acquire more land and then associate it with this tourism and then sell them a whole thing. If you go to China or Southeast Asian countries and even the European countries also, they are selling their heritage like anything. Their heritage is not as rich as ours, but even then they are selling it in a very big way, which we are unable to do. We speak about great heritage, we speak about गौरवशाली इतिहास के बारे में बात करेंगे, बस वही सिर्फ बातों में ही रह जाते, but we don't sell it. And just see, look at this photograph. And the entire thing was completely, the photograph, the entire thing was completely covered with earth. And out of that, we have been able to excavate the entire thing. Just look at this photograph also. And if you are able to occupy all this one, even in these places also, you have a number of monasteries out there. So my proposal was there, acquire all this property, rehabilitate the people to some other place where there are no monuments, expose them, and then market the entire heritage. And I had made a proposal also, but very fortunately now recently 2-3 years back, some portion has been acquired, but not the whole thing which I had proposed at that time. Just look at it. Just look at it. What a rich heritage we had. And many inscriptions of this kind. This gives a very, very graphic description about the whole university. And some of this university, some of this one things, they had inlay work also in that one. This is not front. And the timing of the whole university was regulated with water clock. This is a, I mean, that kind of water flow. And we all know, see, this one, the great Nalanda seal with two deers, Shri Nalandaya Mahavihara Aja Bhikshu Sanghasya. Now it has conclusively proved. And many portions like this one, I think I am running out of time. This one, it is 12 already. And many of these things were like this. This is an imaginary reconstruction of a two-story Buddhist stupa. And for removing the earth, we had this kind of train system was there during the British period. This kind of train, because when I explored the entire area, I could get this train. This train is even now there, small train. And many of the Buddhists, this is a Chinese monastery, Banteji. He has helped us. I mean, he gave us a lot of help and support. Just look at this man. Huang Sang, he came all the way from, after traveling 16,000 kilometers, he came all the way to Nalanda University exclusively to study. We have a, I mean, near Nalanda, we have this one railway station known as Bakhtiyarpur. What a strange irony of fate it is, because Bakhtiyarpur is the man, Bakhtiyarpurji was the man who had destroyed our university, but we are remembering him. We are not remembering Huang Sang. Of course, for Huang Sang, there is a small, this one is there, but that is not enough. A place should have been named. Instead of Bakhtiyarpur, we should have named it after Huang Sang. Because, we should pay the respect to the person who had completely, it was because of through him, we came to know about the whole Nalanda University. We had many with this one, many seminars like this one. Professor S.R. Sharmaji and then the minister, and we have Parvez Sahab. And he went all the way from here, and he made many many monasteries there in order to translate whatever books he had, because he carried near about 671 manuscripts from there. Because once it was taken there and it was translated from that places, and how we know that all this this ones in India, this Buddhism had perished. It's mainly from China, because everything had lost here in India, but it was mainly from Chinese sources, from Nepalese sources, from Burmese sources, from Sri Lankan sources, from Thailand sources. We came to know that it was in India. This Buddha had born, and it was here the Buddhism had flourished. And now I am not going into all these things. These are all restrictions and various other things. I don't know whether time is left out or not. Can you just enlighten me whether there is any time left out, or should I stop? Hello? Hello?
It is now 12 o'clock, sir, so we can
Yes,
finish it.
so can I stop now? Can I
Yes,
stop?
yes, sir.
So,
You
okay,
can
thank
end.
you. Yeah. So this way you have a very rich heritage in this country. So this was one part of the rediscovery of Indian heritage, and for which the contribution of the great European scholars like Alexander Cunningham, Prince, and even before that this one William John, and many of these people, they have enormously contributed for enabling us to discover our own heritage. We should not underwrite them. We should not say that they were all colonial rulers. They were all, they were propagating Christian religion. It is not like that. They were genuine scholars. There might have been some people who had that kind of intentions also. But at the same time, brushing all the people, with one single stroke, that is not proper. And now it is for our younger generation like you, because it's a long presentation, so I'm not going into the details. So it is for the younger generation like you and the scholars, the students, and teachers from our various universities. They should take forward this kind of research work, and they should pressurize the government also. This is Nalanda, great Nalanda University, which was a great university once upon a time, even bigger than that of Oxford, Cambridge, and many other universities. So, you have to acquire more and more land and present it in a better way, so that the government of India itself, the government of Bihar itself, they can take advantage out of it. So, I'm hopeful that this seminar, provoke some of you to think about the ways how to act and how to pressurize the government. I'm thankful to you for giving me an opportunity to speak to the younger generation like this. Thank you all. Thank you very much. And with this one, I just inaugurate the session also. I have finished.
I request Professor Madhav Choudhary sir to deliver voting chants.
हिस्ट्री कला का माधव गेला के बाद तो माधव धेने छथिन वो दिसंबर तक धेने ये रहथिन तकर बाद तो उठा वो अपन बेटा माधव बाबू ककरो नहीं रहता जितेंद्र नारायण सबसे बूथ वोट हाँ सर हाँ
आप लाइव हैं सर.
थैंक यू कहिए हो
हाँ, thank you sir for your nice lecture. Thank you. कार्रवाई को आगे बढ़ाई जाए.
बिल्कुल.
Thank you sir. Thank you for your nice lecture.